you rate yourself in Apex customization, Salesforce customization on a scale of 5?
3.5.
3.5. And in point and click, like configuration?
4.
And any experience with integration?
Yes.
What kind?
Almost entirely into integration, mostly REST-based.
REST-based. Did you host or just consume?
Both. So one or two we have hosted, exposed our classes, mostly consumption based.
Aura framework?
Not a lot on Aura. I am what I would like to say is an LWC guy, but I have done time and again code changes in previous projects on Aura components also.
Visual products, you know, in Salesforce. Like
Products?
Yeah, Salesforce, Service Cloud, Sales Cloud.
Yeah. Sales Service, Velocity, Enterprise, and Experience Cloud, which was Community.
Okay. DevOps strategy. What kind of implementation DevOps strategy you have seen?
So I have experience with tools like Flowsum. I am certified also. Which is again a tool-based CI/CD. Now here in this particular project, so my design, it's completely end-to-end my design. So we have a custom solution in place using Azure DevOps. Wherein, so this is integrated with Azure DevOps. I wouldn't say it is completely CI/CD. It definitely is CD, and some part of CI is manual. It is script-based. A script is written on shell, and that's what we invoke manually for CI part. CD is automatic.
Okay. So let's talk about your tech lead experience. What are your day-to-day activities as a tech lead or team lead?
So start of every sprint, I like to have a complete end-to-end walkthrough with the developers. Now the developers I have are not really developers; they are all interns. So I have 7 interns in my team, 2 junior developers between 0 to 2 years of experience. So these are the folks I work with. So I am in charge of training them on Salesforce and on LWC, since this is completely on Lightning Web Commerce. Walking them through the solution designing myself, writing up the flow diagram. And while they are implementing things, they get stuck every now and then in every which place. So my job is also to guide them, resolve those errors, or at times dictating code line by line. So a typical start of a sprint would be grooming sessions wherein end-to-end discussions on the implementation. What kind of approach to go with? Out of the box or custom approach? If out of the box, design the solution end-to-end and let them know what to follow. If custom, literally give them pseudocodes. If not pseudocodes, sometimes I also dictate them like that.
All the 7 interns?
Yeah. To all the 7 guys and even to the junior developers. So by line I mean the major parts. So literally doing that line by line is what I do sometimes.
Any other activities, like do you code review, do you perform code review, do you use any tools for code review?
So again, code review bit is also on Azure DevOps. Code reviews are also done by there by me. Code reviews follow best practices, deployment strategies.
Sorry to interrupt. So do you utilize a tool for static code analysis or manual?
Manual.
So what all things you check in the Apex code?
So in Apex code, one of the first things, so before they even start coding, again, since this is, like I said, CI is completely manual. So firstly take a diff check. Basis that I let them know what do they have to do. Now once they are done doing, let's assume they are done coding and they are ready to deploy. So they deploy their code to one of their branches, and using those branches I review their code end to end, checking right from best practices to be followed, or any misses in the sense of
I want to know the specifics. How you, one day at work, like what all things you check. I want to know what all things you check. Suppose somebody has written a code, Apex code, and he has pushed into the branch. What all things you will see in the code?
So let's assume I have somebody is assigned to write a trigger. Now, so let's assume somebody has been assigned to write a trigger, and they want to now push it to the target organization.
Let's say controller. Controller. He has pushed a controller, Apex controller.
Okay, and a controller. Yeah. So Apex controller, let's assume the controller is for a Lightning Web component. So in terms of best practices, let's assume if they are trying to fetch some data from that controller to be used in their JS and to be displayed in their HTML. So towards in the controller, as far as LWC or Lightning applications go, we need to minimize the query parameters, keep only the relevant ones. And while we are returning it, if we want to return more than one, we never return them as a string. We always return them as an array. So these kind of best practices I take care of while reviewing their code.
So you return. Sorry. So in your methods or enable methods, right? So I mean, these guys, right? So can you throw some more light on the return type? You just mentioned array.
So in the Apex class, it will be a list, but when you are trying to parse it in your JS, it's an array. Now, what people, let's assume this data which they are returning, this list they are returning, an array in your JS is supposed to be displayed in a Lightning table. Now, most people, what they try to do is, they try to display it directly over there, but the actual approach is to simplify it first and then parse it, so that data type errors do not even come into the picture. So this is highly specific scenario. These are the kind of things I review in the code.
What are other things apart from the return type? What are others?
Coding standards, camel casing, review practices. By review practices, I mean we have some frameworks in place. I try to check if
Which
those are getting it.
Can you explain what those frameworks are talking about here?
Let's assume this data is supposed to be displayed in a Lightning table, and is also going to some kind of a DML operation is also getting performed. Now the framework, again this is a custom framework I have implemented. This framework, let's assume for a trigger, it's a trigger framework, goes 4 levels deep. By 4 levels I mean you generally have inside your trigger, and I'll tell you why I had to go with that approach also.
No, let's stick to your framework. What is the purpose of this framework? Can you explain a little more about it?
Yeah, I will explain, and I will also explain why I had to go with that approach. Is that right?
Yeah.
The framework. Yeah. So the framework which I have implemented goes 4 levels down. So in a general trigger framework, what you normally get is you have a trigger, and then you write a handler. Inside your handler, you write your logic, custom logic, right? Now the framework which I have implemented goes 4 levels down, wherein there's a trigger. For every event, there's a handler, and inside those handlers, for every method, there's a separate class. Now, the reason why I had to implement this is the first line which I said. The CI part is still manual. So, if 2 developers are working on just one trigger, chances of overriding are very high. To avoid this is a framework which I have implemented.
Okay, apart from this framework, you check that the developers are following the framework that you suggested. Apart from these
Merge conflicts.
When they push it to the branch, do you review their PR, pull requests?
Yes.
Okay. And much conflict, by much conflict, what do you mean?
So sometimes while they are trying to push their code to the branch, these are all interns. They get errors they don't understand. These are merge conflicts, right? Before the code is merged in their branch, with their source repository from their branch. Sometimes while they are deploying, merge conflicts also occur. These I help them.
So you solve their much conflict, you review the code standards. Apart from this, anything else? Like, can you tell me? Have you heard of this? Yeah, tell me.
So I also do their reviews, quarterly reviews, performance appraisals.
Okay, so you are also managing them, from a managerial.
From a technical perspective. So the manager, if they reach out to me, so I have to do their technical review, right?
Yeah, that's what.
Only the technical part.
So you're not approving their leaves, just the technical part you're managing?
Yes. The technical reviews I do. Leave management also I do, but I don't approve them. The approvals don't come to me.
Okay. So from security perspective, how do you check security in any of the Apex class? Like if DML is allowed, not allowed?
While designing it, I try to cover it. So in terms of security, I really dislike dynamic queries. Because SQL injection, which is rather common these days. So these things I try to avoid. Other than security, I think if you try to follow the best practices, things get covered. And again, in terms of security on LWC, new thing has come up, which is you open, let's say you have an LWC code open. Now, if you are using an inspect element, you go to the Chrome browser and you do an inspect element. You can actually do, if you are intelligent enough, you can actually do operations from there. So blocking that. So these kind of things I try to take care of in security.
Do you know about strip inaccessible method, security method? Security class is a security class in Apex. Strip inaccessible. Do you know with security enforced?
With sharing?
With security enforced.
No idea. Sorry. With sharing, I know.
And how? So haven't you used this, security enforced in your SOPL keyword as a keyword?
No, I have not.
Okay, and suppose somebody is using, performing a DML, so yeah, tell me the difference between with and without sharing keyword.
Let's assume there are two users in our log. Shamik is one, Varun is the other. Now, and we are both working on opportunity object and we are just performing operations. And in this opportunity object, there are only 100 records. Now, Shamik has access to 60 of those records. Varun has access to 100. Now, due to some operation that you are doing individually and I am doing individually, some Apex class is getting involved, which ideally is supposed to work on hundreds of those records. Now, if sharing is enforced, and you have actually put with sharing keyword or annotation there in your Apex class, then what will happen is Shamik will, when the operation is performed by Shamik, only 60 records will get updated, while I am doing it, 40 will get updated. Now, if you have specifically mentioned without sharing, then two scenarios come up. One is, again, if you have not mentioned anything in your SQL, all the 100 records will get updated or executed on. Otherwise, if you are using sharing object in your query, then sharing settings come into play. But if you have not put up the without sharing keyword, then you cannot use sharing object inside your SQL.
Okay, suppose we have a scenario where you are a running user from Lightning Web Component. You are using that Lightning Web Component and trying to see a data table. Data table has records of custom, let's say, custom object task, or you can say custom object project is there, and you are seeing all those projects in a data table. Okay, you don't have access to project fields and project object. Okay, and there is with sharing keyword put on the Apex controller. So as a running user, would you see those records of custom object project in the data table or not? No, you won't be able to see. So do you mean to say that with sharing enforces field level and object level security?
Only the record level security.
But I said record level, I'm not talking about record level here. I'm asking with sharing or without sharing, does it take into account field level security and object level security or not?
So field level and object level are not considered with sharing or without sharing. Only object level are taken, only record level is taken into consideration.
So let's say you have access to those 100 records, 100 project records, and field level, field FLS and object level security you don't have, and you have mentioned with sharing keyword at the top, still you will be able to see those records. You have access to the record.
So record access and field. So let's assume I have access to only one of those fields in the data table. I will see that one.
No, I'm saying you don't have OLS or object level security and field level security. You just have access to those records.
I think it should error out. If I don't have access to the object itself, it should error out. But if I don't have access to the object, how will I have access to the records?
It's custom. How? In which context Apex runs?
Normally, system context.
System context. So does it respect any of the permissions, FLS or
object level?
So once again, my question is system context. You mentioned system context. Does it respect FLS and object level security or not?
So FLS field level security is by default, right? So if I don't have access to a field, I am trying to query it for that particular user, it will throw me an error.
My question was different. You said context, right?
Yeah.
Context, system context. When you say something is running in system context, does it respect object level security or field level security or not?
No.
It will not respect.
No. Yes, it will not.
It will bypass all the rules.
So, as a system admin, if I don't have access to a particular record, I am unable to query it, although the query is running in system context. So I think they are enforced, right? I don't have access.
You are swinging between. You just said system context. It will bypass everything. It will not respect any of the security. And now you are saying it is enforced.
So I just thought of a scenario wherein if I don't have access to a custom object, I'm trying to query it, I get an error. And with these queries,
like querying, we are talking about just one specific scenario where there is Apex code involved, Apex controller involved, and I don't know where you are querying that. Are you querying from your Visualforce or querying from, Workbench? I don't know. But we are talking about just one specific scenario, Apex.
Yeah, they are restricted. If I don't have access, do it from your Apex class also. They are restricted. If I don't have access to the object, it should error out.
Yeah.
So that's my final answer.
System context respects object level security and field level security.
Yes, my assumption of this.
Okay. What is inherited sharing? Can you explain what is inherited sharing and why it was introduced? So
state sharing ADS, is it related to parent and child objects in a master detail?
That you have to say. Do you know about inherited or not? Can we continue discussion?
No, I don't know inherited.
No. And you don't know about security class stripped inaccessible method?
Haven't used.
No, schemas class is accessible, is editable, is updatable. Do you know about this? Schema method.
No. Also in LWC we do use schema methods.
Let's keep LWC aside for some time. Let's focus on Apex code. So before modifying anything, do you check that do you have access to schema.is updatable? You have update rights on these objects. Have you checked perform these checks?
No.
So if you will not perform these checks, then the code is not secured. Anyone else who has system admin right will, straight away with records.
So you learn every day.
Any other way to check these, you are updating some fields. Anyway, so stripped inaccessible is one method. Schema.is updatable, that's the old version of checking, is updatable, is creatable, is the old version of checking, stripped inaccessible is the current. Any other way to handle this kind of scenario?
Not sure.
Have you heard of this with security enforced keyword that is used in software?
No, I have not. No.
Okay. Let's talk about batch classes. Do you know what is Apex transaction? You know?
Yeah.
Okay. So suppose we have a batch, we are planning to update 1,000 records. Okay. Chunk size, batch size is 200. You execute that batch. How do you execute it? What is do you remember the line? How we execute a batch?
How we have to implement the batchable interface?
Yeah, that's okay. I'm telling you about how you execute it. Like,
execute batch. You use this execute batch in anonymous inside your developer console, execute anonymous. In order to execute, you have to use that system.execute batch and the batch name.
System.execute batch. System.execute batch. Are you sure? Do you remember?
Execute batch is definitely there, so I'm a little short on syntax right now. So that's how you do it.
That's why I'm not asking about your batch class syntax. I'm just asking about this, this one line that we use every time to, I'm not talking about, tell me where to write stateful and where to write start and finish. I'm just talking about just one line. Do you know how to execute this batch class? You said execute batch. Just correct?
Execute batch is definitely there.
What are the parameters inside execute batch?
The batch name and the chunk size.
Batch name and the chunk size. You mean instance of batch class?
Instance of your batch class and the size of the chunk.
Okay. Let's come back to example. Our example. Okay. 1,000 account records that you have to create. Okay. Chunk size is 200. You write this whatever system.execute batch or database.execute batch, whatever. You give the chunk size as 200. How many Apex transactions will be there? 5. Are you sure 5? You have 5 with you. What about start and finish method? Do they run separate transaction or same transaction?
So in the same transaction, execute will be executed 5 times. Now these chunks are still counted as a transaction only. Wherein
you are right about Apex 5 transaction. You said execute method will run 5 times, so 5 transactions. I'm asking about start method and finish method. Are these sorry?
Start and finish will be executed once.
Will there be a separate transaction for them, or they are included in your 5 transactions that you are mentioning?
I think they are part. part of the first transaction only. The first transaction should have the start, last one should have the finish.
And you are guessing it or no?
I'm guessing it. I'm just thinking on terms of how the system should be made.
Okay. So I have a start method, I have a finish method, and I have a execute method. And you said that first transaction will include start method and first instance of execute method. Right? And last instance of execute method will be in the same transaction with the finish method. Right? Now tell me, can we make a callout from wax class? What do we do?
So you have to apply an annotation, HTTP, something for the batch class in order to make a callout.
Have you made any call from batch class?
No, I have not.